He wasn't prone to big-sounding words or big thoughts. But he said to me once something I'll never forget. He said, "Is here the best country there is? Is here the best country there is?" So you can be anything you want to be. But you got to work hard. Nobody's going to give you S.H. blank, you know. That was the way he taught. Nobody's going to give you anything. Don't blame anybody else if you don't succeed. It's your fault, boy. And I would go to school, and I was an academic type, although I played sports. But I was the guy that would sometimes get beaten up by Charlie Johnson, who was a bully. And Uncle James would say, "Next time you don't fight back, I'm going to get your ass quick kicked twice. And the second time is going to be worse than the first. You defend yourself. You fight for what you believe in." And that never left me. But he was a man of basic moral values that were very simple. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Love your country. Love your family. Provide for them. James Lewis was a provider. Even when he wasn't working, he would go out and hunt. He sort of instinctively knew that hunting was a way of feeding his family. He would go out and hunt, and anything animal that moved around, raccoon, rabbit, deer, better stay out of James Lewis's eyes, because he would shoot and bring it home. And Bert would say, "James, I'm not cooking that stinky stuff." And he would say, "You will if you get hungry." He loved animals. He loved animals. He always had a bevy of hounds. And the hounds had a job. To go out and bring back the things, fetch the things, his word, fetch the things that he would shoot. Once in a while the hounds would get lost, though. There'd inevitably be an independent hound who would get lost. Uncle James would go knock on the door of someone in the hills that he was hunting in, and he would say, "I just lost one of my hounds. His name is, if you see him, call my wife during the week and I'll come up and retrieve him. I'll come up and get him." Sure enough, in the middle of the week, Aunt Bert would get a call Friday evening after Uncle James got off at the sawmill. I would jump in the old Model A with him, and we'd drive up to Grass Valley or someplace to get the hound. Always, it was a white person who had called. And I learned that there were no distinctions between people nowadays that we would probably call rednecks. But there was no distinction between them and James Lewis. They had one thing in common. They loved hunting. Race wasn't a factor. And he'd knock on the door and say, "I'm James Lewis. I understand you have my hound." "Yes, we do." And Bert now had prepared us for the long drive, an hour, which took like 2 hours. She prepared us by giving us a paper bag filled with sandwiches, enough to last for about a month. And she would say, "I don't eat any food from strangers, James." The minute that Uncle James would get there, this camaraderie between hunters would take over. The person would say, "You want to have some supper?" Uncle James said, "Yes." And we would eat. Uncle James would thank them and offer money, which was rejected. And we'd drive back, and I would say, "Why did we eat? And Bert told us not to eat strange food." He said, they kept our dog, our hound, for a week, offered to feed us, and we're not going to accept it? What's wrong with you, boy? Uncle James never met a stranger. Never met a stranger. When my daughter was in high school, I'm rambling, but I want to give you a measure of the man and the character that I think, the traits of character that are important. My daughter was in the band, the marching band, and she was a frail young thing, but she played the xylophone, heavy bells, and she carried a strap around her neck and carried the bells. And the school was short of funds, so our group of parents formed a band boosters group to raise money, to buy instruments, and lighter bells primarily for my daughter. That's why I joined. And our big project was a bingo game on Friday nights. And I accepted the presidency of the bingo games. I've never smoked in my life, but I smoked during bingo, secondhand. And when I would get home, the dogs would run the other way because of the stench of smoke that was on my clothing. Well, after Tracy graduated from bingo, the band boosters still need money, and one of the projects that they undertook was purchasing Christmas trees and wreaths, and then selling them. Well, I decided to every year buy some wreaths and give them to clients and friends. The place that we got these wreaths was at a place called Hyder's, Larry Hyder's Tree Farm. And for 7 or 8 years after Tracy, my daughter, graduated, I would rent a U-Haul, drive up to Larry's, get a bunch of wreaths, and bring them back down to Sacramento and give them away. Now, one would think that after 7 or 8 years, I would be very close friends with the owner of the tree farm. The typical transaction, however, was I would drive up and he would say, "Ward, good to see you again. Turn the truck around and we'll fill it up for you. 30 minutes, I'm on my way back to Sacramento." One year I decided to take Uncle James with me. And we got to Larry's place. And Uncle James gets out of the truck and he says, "Nice place you have here." And Larry and Uncle James started talking about hunting and about forest management and all other stuff. And Larry said, "James, how about lunch?" "You too, Ward, you're welcome." I swear to you, 3 hours later, we were headed back to Sacramento, and I wondered, what is it that causes some people to click it off and to get along instantly, whereas others don't seem to connect even after years? Animals can sense whether you like them or not. You notice? Certain animals can sense. I think people can too. Because James Lewis never met a stranger. He was a funny man. He never saw bad motives in anybody. He always tried to show you his good side. Not consciously so much, but he always wanted to get along with people. Those of us who are Republicans, and I hope that's all of us in this room, if there are any others, welcome. All all we ask is that you repent and be saved. But the moral of James Lewis, for us as Republicans, is to be of good cheer, have a solid foundation, care for our neighbors, let the world know that we're trying to improve life for all of us, that we don't see people in terms of the color of their skin. We just see people as human beings, creatures of God. And that we welcome everybody into our fold, as long as you are of good character. But it's important for us to understand ourselves what good character is. When Martin Luther King talked about judging his 4 little children not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, that's a two-part equation. It's a two-part equation. And it's not enough that you not be judged by the color of your skin. It's also important that you have good character so that we can judge you by that good character. So it's a two-part equation, and you have a responsibility as people who are, quote, black or Latino or whatever. You have a responsibility to be of good character. If you're white or Asian, be of good character. And a person of good character will obviously be Republican, but it's important for us as Republicans to lead the way in trying to rebuild the foundation of America. Because we are truly a blessed people living in a blessed land, trying to do God's work to provide a better place for all of us. Proposition 107 is an initiative that is aimed at leading the way on that. Its message is very clear. The state, and that's a small s, which means the universities, the state government, cities and counties, mosquito abatement districts, all of them, they will not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to anybody on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in the operation of public employment, public education, or public contracting. If you submit the low bid, you get the contract. No 7% preferences based on minority status, as the city of Tucson does. No preferences for anybody. That message is very clear. It is passed in California, 55-45. In Nebraska, 58-42. In Michigan, 58-42. And in Washington State, 59-41. None of those are really bastions of conservatism. If they can do it there, I will be content only if the great state of Arizona can pass it 60-40.